Hey everybody, Optimus Tom back with another Pioneer deck tech. This time we're going to be taking a look at the Abzan Amalia Combo. This deck is centered around the Explore mechanic, where between Wild Growth Walker and the titular card Amalia, your number of Explore triggers are going to grow your Amalia to an astronomical amount of power, 20 in this case specifically, which will then blow the entire world up and leave Amalia left swinging for lethal damage against your opponent. The deck functions as a very resilient combination deck in the fact that it has both Collected Company and Court of Calling in the deck to wind up tutoring or grabbing cards from large amounts at the top of your library, in addition to playing Return to the Ranks, another Convoke spell like Court of Calling, which will get a lot of the recursive pieces from your graveyard if your opponent successfully spot removal checks you or board wipes you. This deck is extremely resilient with these pieces because Amalia can also trigger off of just gaining life, which is what the Explore triggers from Wild Growth Walker will supply Amalia. However, there are other pieces in the deck that gain life as well. Lunarch Veteran means that anything coming into play, especially a massive return to the ranks, will gain a lot of life and buff up your Amalia very quickly. Gilded Goose as a mana dork also creates food, which, if you consume it, will gain you life and power up your Amalia. And then Dina Soul Steeper. Whenever you gain life, each opponent will lose 1 life. So therefore, when you're gaining all this life, you're draining away your opponent to make sure that your Amalia at 20 power is lethal damage when it comes to your opponent's life total. The mana base is a little bit stretched thin with only 21 lands, and we do have to dip into Mana Confluence to deal a little bit of damage to ourselves to finish off all the different types of mana costs we have. However, most of the deck is converted mana cost 2 or lower to make Return to the Ranks for 4 mana, the exact same as it would be for Collected Company, and then you're only looking at 5 converted mana costs for Court of Calling, which you can convoke as well in order to find most of your combo pieces. Your sideboard plan is going to be about as close to a modern birthing pod deck as possible. You have a toolbox of a various assortment of creature-specific hate pieces based on what your opponent is going to be playing. Drannith Magistrate here, making sure your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other from their hands, so not going to be having recursive graveyard strategies and not going to be able to play things from exile, like if people are playing Discover Combination. Haywire Might is a great way to get rid of hateful interactive pieces such as a Grafdigger's Cage or something else that is stopping your pieces like Collected Company and Court of Calling from actually finding the creatures that you need, as well as protective pieces from your deck and just ways to just interact with your opponent. Voice of Resurgence is a card we haven't seen in a very long time that is just a very good card, especially against control decks that want to try to play at instant speed on your turn. And Archon of Emeria is just a very powerful, punishing, taxing effect. Guardian of the Faith is there to protect all of your creatures. There's just a slew of different types of toolbox creatures coming out of this deck. The Abzan Amalia combo is going to be very, very well situated against decks that only have a linear strategy, so that means some aggressive decks as well as potentially combo matchups are just going to come down to a race to see if the Amalia deck can finish off before your opponent can. This deck will have a little bit of trouble against some of the more controlling and mid-range decks, especially if they're able to spot removal check you, board wipe you, do something, and you don't happen to have the right piece of recursion in your deck to combat them. Personally, I think the Amalia combo deck is going to be one of the top decks at the upcoming regional championship in Atlanta, being hosted in North America this coming weekend, and I think this is going to be a very powerful deck that I expect to see multiple copies of in the top 8. Now, if you like my Pioneer content or any of my other Magic the Gathering content, don't forget to subscribe to me on TikTok and YouTube, as well as follow me at Optimus Tom on Reddit.